What's on, where and when. It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio. The Mako Rugby Roundup.
Welcome back to another episode of the Mako Rugby Roundup. I'm your host, Chris Butler, and as always, we're joined by co-hosts Les Edwards and Sean Davis. Both got the colours on today.
Yes, happy to support the Mako despite not getting the result we were hoping for last night.
A very special guest and someone who knows all about that feeling, but potentially some highs and lows throughout his career. Wyatt Crockett, lovely to have you here, mate.
Yeah, cheers, Chris. It's an honour, and been watching over the weeks. So,
that's good.
Thanks for having me on.
Nice. This week we talk about Farah Palmer Cup, NPC International Rugby, and we catch up with Wyatt and his career, and of course life post rugby. Our venue sponsors O'Shettigan's on Bridge Street, and if you're looking for a place to talk rugby, enjoy some great company, this is the place to be. It's time for the Shed Chat, and a bit sad today, or you've been able to bounce back? Or?
Yeah, I'm a bit frustrated.
Yeah.
You always go into big games like that with high hopes and
Yes,
all kinds of goals, and like everyone, I guess we just deal with it and move on to the next. Yeah,
but the entertainment rolls on at O'Shettigan's.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yep. So this week we've got the Waz wagon carrying on Friday night, so that'll they've got a bit of momentum, and they'll be looking to push on.
Full house for tomorrow night.
We are
apparently.
getting a good following around the venue as well for the Warriors, which is evident in the way they're actually getting the results. They tend to build momentum that way. People jump off the wagon just as fast.
I've always loved them that way.
Day oneers. A lot of day.
They're right from the start.
Yeah, a lot of day oneers come out of the woodwork. It's okay, good. Yeah. So that's Friday night. I think Saturday morning at All Blacks. Not that that's hospo hours, but it'll be certainly on my watch list. And then Saturday night, we're actually involved with an interesting event out at Club Waimea. It's we're sponsoring a wrestling event. So a little off the cuff, but we'll be attending that, and then we'll expect a fairly large crowd in size and in mass back here on Saturday night, with the wrestlers quite keen to drink after an event as well. So
So where have they all come from?
They're all over the country. It's an interesting group of people, but I've been involved previously in these events, and they're a great bunch of lads mainly, and like I say, big boys.
They've wrestled all over the world, these guys. One of them is Brooke Duncan, who's actually Duncan McDougall from the Maris Club, and he's wrestled in Mexico and Japan.
They've gone around.
There's a circuit for these guys.
Has he got a signature move?
I think so.
Yeah, he will do. I couldn't tell you what it is.
Tackle.
It's pole drive.
Yeah. Look, it's pretty entertaining stuff. And then, like I say, the boys certainly like to celebrate afterwards. So it's we're expecting a big night Saturday night.
Wow, how's that?
And then into Sunday for another round at the Mako down at Trafalgar Park. So big weekend all round.
It is. It doesn't stop. O'Shettigan's on Bridge Street, and Les, let's get into it. The Farah Palmer Cup, and how is it looking?
Well, they played their final round robin against Northland Kari. Again, a big team from Northland. A couple of Black Ferns, including Crystal Murray, who's one of the world champion front rowers from last year's championship. And I thought, performed capably, very, very well. Stuck in there, only down by 6 points to 7 at the halfway mark. But unfortunately, Northland went on with it. But that means, though, because they are in the top 4, the Mako are now playing a quarterfinal as the first of a double header on Sunday. So they're on at 11:35 at Trafalgar Park, playing Taranaki Fio at 11:35. So worth getting along and supporting them.
And they'd be feeling fairly confident going into that one, wouldn't they? They had a good one against them last round.
They did. There's a young lass back for Taranaki called Michaela Blyde.
Oh,
goes all right.
She goes all right, doesn't she, White? Yeah. So they'll have to be on their toes, because she will be.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we wish them. So that's 11:35 at Trafalgar Park. And let's get into the Bunnings Warehouse NPC. And I guess before we talk about anything else, let's talk about last night's game. And what, you've been involved in some Ranfurly Shield games?
Yeah, it's always an exciting time to get involved in a Shield game. Obviously, as we talked about before the show, Tassie haven't had too many opportunities, so they would have been right up for it. And you could see that the way that they played, that it wasn't through a lack of effort. They were totally committed. And on a positive note, they defended really well. And that should have shows the want and the character within the team. Unfortunately, not able to score points, which sort of, I think probably more of a shout out to the Wellington team for the way they defended and the way they were able to shut down our sort of key strike players. I thought the way they got up in our face and put pressure on the likes of Levi and Co was pretty impressive.
Yeah. Les, what were your thoughts on the game?
I thought they copied Northland's game plan to a T. Their midfield rush defence was amazing. They got in our face. They blew us off our ruck ball several times. It didn't help that our line-out misfired about 4 times. But I'm with Wyatt. Credit to Wellington. They made 200-plus tackles to less than 100 for the Mako. So, they had to work really hard to retain that shield, and they did that, and they did it for 80 minutes. So they can be very proud of the effort. And Wyatt, you were talking about their back row.
Yeah, I thought Shields, Karifi and Lakai were outstanding, to be honest. And, it was that opportunity came because of the way they defended. They were able to knock us back behind the gain line, and then they're coming forward, getting over the ball, and they were a real menace in those breakdowns, weren't they? A lot of turnover ball and a lot of forced errors from guys that we don't normally see making those errors, but it was, I think, just a sign of the pressure that was coming at them in waves,
Yeah. I think even Shield Challenger side, Wellington are going to be pretty tough to beat this year, especially with that defence. Like you say, it was, to score no points in the game is with the attacking weapons we have is, credit to Wellington for sure.
I kind of get the feeling that, we're in a position now where we've set the bar in previous years and these teams are now stepping up, and if we're going to take on Tassie, we're going to up our defence and we're going to take it to them. That's kind of the feeling I got out of the last 2 games.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. Tasman isn't a team to take lightly, and so consequently, absolutely they should be top 4. But look, I don't think it helped that Tane Robinson went off at the 10-minute mark in the number 10 jersey either. He looked quite sharp and running the cutter. That was a crucial loss. The set piece.
The set pieces, it's sort of lacking.
I agree with
found out the last couple of weeks that set piece, and then I think like you say, Tane missing, and just whether it's game control or decision making just seem to be which like Wyatt says, it's all comes from being under pressure defensively.
They were under pressure practically the whole game.
It's tough conditions in Northland, but there was a lot of drop ball, but certainly a line out didn't do us any favours, did it?
No,
and
that's 2 games in a row where the
Northland just stepped up to the mark, didn't they? And if they played like that in other rounds, watch out. They're going to have a good season. So, Ranfurly Shield aside, now it's it's a couple of losses in a row, and we've got North Harbour at Trafalgar Park. So, what are our thoughts going into that?
Well, I think it's probably a good time for us to get back home. The 2 games we had at home earlier in the season were, those sort of mistakes weren't so evident, and that game against Auckland, I feel like contrastingly we were. And well
that was the big surprise to me. How well we did against Auckland.
So, I think that the trip home will do them good, and it's a tough week, that storm week for all of the teams. But playing a game back in Nelson, I think we'll come right. We've still got faith. We believe.
Yeah, sunny afternoon. Get that east stand stamping their feet, because Harbour are a bit of a bogey team for us. They always give us a tough time.
Yeah, they do.
You played against them, and I remember one game when they had us totally under the pump. We got the win in about the second to last minute. And the crowd's really got to get behind the boys and just make some noise and bring some energy to this game. 2:00 kickoff, you couldn't ask for better, and the forecast is sun.
Yeah, I think you go back to that Auckland game. It's not like we haven't played well this season. It's within our capability. I think, sometimes a Shield challenge can be a bit disruptive because it's such a big focus and you put so much energy into it. And looking at that Northland game, I think potentially maybe we had one eye on that Shield challenge and maybe lacked a bit of intensity. And then the Shield challenge, I'm not too sure. Don't want to read too much into it, but maybe we're a bit nervous and a bit, over eager in that game. And so I think maybe just getting back to a regular fixture, hopefully it's an opportunity for the guys to, just maybe relax a little bit, just get out there and play the footy that we know that they can play, and perhaps with a little bit less pressure.
Yeah, as Ethan said last week, just enjoy your rugby and get on with it. Enjoy playing with your mates. That's the kind of attitude he was talking about last week.
Yeah, so you've been part of 3 Shield tenures with Canterbury.
Yeah.
So what's harder, winning it or defending it?
Oh, good question, Les. Look, I think our mindset was going and attacking it, whether we were challenging for it or we were holding it. So the mindset was never to try and defend the Shield. So I think to get out and get a good start, take the crowd out of it, because usually there's a big crowd, although last night wasn't such a big crowd.
No.
I know the challenges we had. I particularly remember the Southland challenge going down there, and mate, I think there was about 40,000 in that 10,000 seat stadium, and it was loud. But bringing that intensity and really taking it to them from the start of the game was really crucial. And I think that was really important for those Shield challenges, to really just make sure that they feel your intensity, you're not feeling theirs. Because, in those big games, when you feel like they've got that more intent and more physicality at that start of the game, it's a horrible feeling as a player. And you realize, oh shit, I'm off the mark a bit here, and then you've got to try and pick yourself up mid-game, and then that sort of adds to stress, and you start trying harder, and you're making more errors. So I think to answer your story, mate, I think the mindset from us was always just to go out and attack it, and really try and get off to a good start, and then hang in there.
Right, you could see that last night. It took a long time for the Mako to actually get into Wellington's half of the field, and it was a long period of time before we got into the 22 in that first half. So maybe being put on the back foot early and absorbing the attacking pressure of Wellington took a bit of sting out of the Mako play.
Yeah, potentially. I think like I said earlier on, that back sort of their loose forward trio were very dominant, and they were really physical. They've got a big midfield as well, and they came up and put us under a bit of pressure, didn't they? So, yeah.
Oh, well, move on to North Harbour, get a win on the board and keep the bus going. The bus will be going down, I presume.
Yeah,
the walking bus.
Heading down there, mate. Yep.
International rugby, and the All Blacks have, they call it a friendly before the Rugby World Cup. You just happen to be taking on South Africa at Twickenham. I mean, man, what a way to go into the French game. Hopefully you've got half your squad left. Yeah. But it'd be interesting to see. I note that on the news this morning, the All Blacks are fielding a pretty strong team. I haven't, seen the lineup, but the inference was that Foster was saying we're putting our best team on the park, ready for this one. And you'd presume South Africa would want to do the same. Not too sure who they're going in against. You could argue that you could play some gamemanship and trial a few combinations, but it doesn't sound like these two teams are going to do that. So what are our thoughts leading into the World Cup? What's your thoughts, Wyatt?
Oh, nervous about this game, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's one of those games, obviously they want a bit of game time, put a bit of time into the lads, get them out on the field. And I do think they've missed an opportunity to give the likes of David Havili some game time. He's played, I think, 40 minutes of rugby in the last few months. Could be a crucial player come the knockout stages. If something happens to Geordie, then, Davey's going to have a big role to play. So I would have loved to see him off the bench at least, get some time, bit of confidence out there with those lads. But yeah, it's good to see Josh Lord getting a crack, and Fletcher Newell, I think, is on the bench, so he's also coming back from injury. So it'll be good for those guys. But I think they've really missed a trick with Davey getting him back out on the park. But yeah, like you say, there's not a lot to win out of this game other than just a bit of confidence.
Yeah, right. Thoughts, lads?
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. Yeah, I would have probably just like to see Davey get a bit of a run. But aside from that, yeah, I think they're right. You go into it as if it's time to switch on and start building some momentum for that French game for sure.
I'll set your alarm for this. 6:30 a.m. Springboks have named a massive forward pack. The All Blacks have named their best team that they've got available. Interesting, though, they've gone with Dane Coles and not Cody Taylor. Cody Taylor misses out this week, so I guess Dane Coles is there to niggle away at that guy Mark, right? Which is probably a good thing. The interesting selection for me with the All Blacks is they've gone with a 6-2 bench.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting, because Anton Leonard-Brown is the sole outside back named, and you get an injury early anywhere in the back line, and that leaves you just with a halfback, which is Cam Roigard, left on your reserves bench. So clearly, on one hand, Fozzie felt that they needed some big bodies to come on fresh and continue to try and deal with the South Africans. But then there's the downside: you get an early injury, and you'll be struggling. So one of those forwards might end up playing out wide.
Well, you might have to have Artie on the wing.
I was going to say, mate,
we would have passed them.
Too bad on the wing, or chuck him anyway. Go right.
Yeah. You sometimes see him out there, don't you?
Yeah.
So Davey Havili missing out is just given an opportunity, as you say, to Tupou Vai and Josh Lord. So
yeah.
But man, two good teams. This will be fun to watch.
South Africa annihilated Wales. So, the captain's back. That must be a big psychological lift too. The fact that the World Cup captain has come back from injury earlier than expected, and then they go and absolutely smash Wales. So they'll be on a high, won't they?
Oh, 100%. I think, prior to that 2019 World Cup, and I think the last one that they won, the Box, they've got a habit of playing poorly in the lead up to a World Cup, and then coming out and even losing the first round or at the start of the World Cup, and then turning it right around. But I think they're certainly a team that has sort of left their run a bit late, but they're sort of a team that have shown in the past that they can come good pretty quick.
Why have such a big match like this prior to going in against France? Is this just to get you up and running and to get your battle hardened, or I just wonder whether or not it's going to be too big and it's going to take them out of it for France, depending on how you take it on, because both sides have selected pretty much a full strength side.
Yeah, I was sort of a bit bewildered by it, to be honest. I wouldn't have thought that they would have done it unless. The last couple of years have been tough, right? And maybe trying to build a bit of confidence going into the game, into the World Cup, rather. But having said that, we've had a great start to this year, and maybe that fixture was put on at a time when we hadn't been going so well. But yeah, I suppose the risk of injuries, and you've got a World Cup which is 7 games if you make it to the final. Like 7 games in 7 weeks.
Yeah.
So it makes it basically 8 games in 8 weeks now, doesn't it? So, interesting. Cool.
How is that for the players? Like at the actual event, World Cup, with those 7 games in 7 weeks or whatever like that. By the 5th or 6th week in, I could imagine the excitement and energy's building as well. So do you feel the fatigue? Does it sort of catch up playing that regularly and
I think
bigger games?
I think at World Cup you just, I don't think the fatigue becomes a factor, although in my only World Cup I got injured in that 4th game, so maybe that was a factor, playing 4 weeks in a row. But look, I think that excitement and that once in every 4 years sort of certainly keeps that level of engagement and excitement up. But it is a long time, and I've seen over the last few World Cups, there have been a number of sort of those overuse sort of injuries that sort of seem to pop up. So you've got to be careful and manage the team. I'm sure the Great Fuzzy has a medical team that'll make sure that happens.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll see how it all goes.
It's going to be exciting.
See if there's anyone left standing at the end of the game.
Mate, it's a full house at Twickenham.
I know,
and
it's going to be
I'm
huge.
sure the coffers are full too. So
try and take it lightly. Yeah.
at your peril.
Yeah.
You're with the Mako Rugby Roundup, and it's our great pleasure to welcome to the show Wyatt Crockett. Wyatt is Mako 169 and All Black 1091. It's great to have you on the show, mate. And you're a man who's packed down an enormous number of scrums for Canterbury and the Crusaders and the All Blacks, and then finally the Tasman Mako. Can you give us an idea of how you reflect on those? Now, this is Les stats, 375 first-class games, 4,000 scrums. I don't know how he counted all of those, whether he went back through past television games. And tell us what drove you to keep playing the toughest position in the park.
I think for me, mate, I was just living my dream. It genuinely was my childhood dream to be a Crusader. I probably never thought of making it to the All Blacks. So, for me, I love the trainings. I love the challenge every week. I love competing at training and obviously in games against the best players in the world. So, I think I was just, I was loving it. I got to play with, some great mates, some childhood heroes at the start of my career. Like you turn up to training, and I think there were 17 All Blacks in the Crusaders environment at the time, and I'm just like, I've watched these guys on telly for the last 10 years, and how good is this? And I sort of came through with a group of 3 or 4 really good mates, so it was just awesome traveling the world, playing rugby, and also providing for family once later in life, had kids and stuff like that. It's good opportunity for that as well. So I think those are all the factors, that sort of made me want to keep going and kept me loving the game.
Who are those 3 or 4 good mates?
Andy Ellis and T. Paulo, we came through sort of the same academy year, and Craig Clark. We came through in the same academy year, and been through a couple of years training in the gym and getting ready for Super Rugby or Mitre 10 Cup and stuff. So and then we all made it into the team at the same time, and so that's pretty awesome.
Nice. Back to the beginning, mate. Raised in Golden Bay, attended Nelson College as a boarder from 94 to 2000. Your home and playground in Golden Bay was one of the camping grounds there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your junior rugby career.
Grew up in Tukarua, which is halfway between Taka and Collingwood, middle of nowhere, really.
Been there.
But I suppose sport for me back then was, in sort of up till 10 years old, was just unorganised, playing with your mates, playing ball rush, scrag, whatever it was. You got a ball, let's play something. And then I joined the Taka Rugby Club in under 10s because Collingwood didn't have a team at the time for the juniors. So, we'd head across the hill every second week, playing against, all the Golden Bay Motueka teams, Rewaka, Merch. So it was, sometimes a couple of hour trip either way. Usually stop off for fish and chips on the way home.
Yeah.
Maybe the parents would stop for a wee beer at the Rat Trap. I don't know if you remember that spot.
Yeah, I remember the Rat Trap.
Get the odd 50 cents and play on the old whatever that machine was. And that was awesome, mate. I think, that's probably where the love for the game really set in, bus trips with your mates, yarning, having fun. And then after the games as well, loved an aftermatch.
Yeah.
But just all those sort of real good memories. And although you think traveling over the hill each way is a hassle, but for us it was just great fun. Hanging out with your mates, so it was cool.
Yeah, mate. Then across to Nelson College as a boarder, playing rugby as a flanker until you made the switch to prop, to making the first 15 in 2000. Is there a story behind that change of position?
Well, I started out as a prop, and then I think I moved to lock, and then six, and then back to prop, and then back to lock and six, and then back to prop. So I think it was more effective my growth spurts, like I get tall and skinny, and then I get short and fat, tall and skinny, until I ended up as a prop. So I think it was just a matter of, I got pretty tall, and then so changed positions and tried a few different things. And I think I realised that I probably wasn't going to be quick enough or athletic enough to be a loose forward or a lock. So thought my best chance was at prop. And I actually remember, I think in the fifth form, I must have been playing a bit of lock. I'd trialled out for this team, and they'd said, "Oh, you're not a prop, you're too tall, whatever." Try lock or six, but then I got back to the boarding hostel, and Salvigar Julio, the headmaster at the time, said, "Mate, we haven't got any props next year. I need you to start eating some more tucker." So he went and got me a second plate from the dining hall. He's like, "Eat this," and just keep feeding me. That's probably, and that's where I ended up.
That's where it is. Yeah.
So what house were you in? And
I was at Rutherford House.
Rutherford House,
Yeah.
right. Do you remember the house rugby tournaments?
Oh,
Did
yeah,
you play
absolutely.
them then?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, the house sports competitions were huge back in the day. My son's at Nelson College now, and I'm telling him about it. But we used to have have our own haka, have our own chants and songs, and we'd all get dressed up. It was a big event.
I was in Demet, and I lined up against Barnico, and quite a few of my mates in there. And next thing, they're pushing and shoving me and giving me the stare down and trying to square up with me, like there were no friends. It was right into it, eh?
Yeah, it's good stuff. Good rivalries. We always had, I think the boarding hostels took it to another level, didn't they? I think there was a couple of scraps with foul over the years, and
now there would be inter-house raids sometimes, wouldn't there? Yeah, there'd be stuff going on. Oh, yeah, many a story.
Yeah.
And were you always first to the dining? Because there was always a rush out the classroom to get to the dining room for lunch.
Yeah. Well, I probably must have been. Yeah. Yeah.
Mate, at some point you went south and played for Otago Boys High.
Yeah.
Why did you end up at the Crusaders and not the Mighty Highlanders?
Basically, I was sort of finishing, I was sort of mid-year at Otago, and I was sort of thinking, well, what am I going to do next year? And I was keen on trying to give rugby a real genuine crack, and I went and had a meeting with the Otago Academy, and they just, to be honest, just didn't really seem that interested at the time. And then conversely, I had a chat with the Crusaders Academy, and Rob Penny was in charge. And he was just like, "Mate, come. I would love to have you." He was really excited. And whether he was, really excited or not, mate, he sounded excited, and that was enough for me. So I was like, right, I'm coming to Christchurch. Lucky I had some family and stayed at my grandparents. And and to be fair, the Crusaders Academy was bloody well regarded at the time. It still is, obviously. So it was a bit of a no-brainer for me. But to be honest, I think if Otago had showed me, said that they wanted me to stay, I would have stayed.
Yeah,
because at the time that's what I probably wanted to do. Yeah.
So then you end up playing for Canterbury, and you end up with black jerseys. You go on a New Zealand Under-21 World Cup tour in 2004, winning the comp, and also you were a junior All Black in 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
So out of that group, who were the names and the blokes that you really enjoyed playing with, and who made you more competitive?
Yeah, I think probably position wise, John Afoa was another prop in that group. So I remember always they'd always put me up against John Afoa in the trial, and he was the gun, right? He was the big dog. I still remember the one thing that stands out to me, he turned up to this camp and I was rooming with him, and he had a full suitcase full of protein bars all given to him by the academy. I was like, whoa, mate, this guy must be a legend. They're really looking after him with his box of protein bars. But yeah, I always used to go up against him, and he was an awesome player, and very professional right from the start. But we had players like Luke McAllister, Joe Rokoko, number of household names in those sorts of teams. So it's pretty cool to play with those guys.
Those protein bars must have been good value because he's still playing.
Yeah,
running around for Bay of Plenty. So he's as durable as you were.
Even more so, yeah.
And also, you get coached obviously by some pretty decent coaches when you're playing in the black jersey. So anyone there particularly shaped your attitude towards the game, and yeah.
Yeah, well, I think in terms of who really who stands out to me, who shaped me, and that probably starting off with Pens, I think the thing with Pens is he really just showed belief in me. And at the time I wasn't, I probably lacked a bit of confidence. Like my dad told me that I was good enough, and he'd constantly be giving me encouragement and stuff like that, but I hadn't really had anyone else really give me that confidence. But Pens, used to, you've got this, you're going to be an All Black, keep working hard, and used to give me so much positive reinforcement. So I think for me, he really stands out. And then at the same time, I did a lot of work with Mike Cron in those early years in the academy. He was always there. We'd have front row clinics. I think it was every Wednesday, and we'd turn up, and there'd be a mixture of from under 16s through to sometimes some NPC players would turn up, but Canterbury B players, club players, under 18s, all the way through, and that's men's and women's. So we'd all get together and do these scrummaging sessions and just getting one-on-one advice from the guru. Ron, there's no one better. So he obviously had a massive impact on me, and he was instrumental in me making that first New Zealand under-19 team as well. So when I finally turned up to Christchurch after coming up from Otago, he said, "Look, we've got a glaring weakness at tight head for the under-19s," and at the time I was mainly a loose head. But he's like, "But if I work with you for the next 6 weeks, I think you'll be ready to go." And I just did, untold number of sessions, to the fact that my skin was completely raw on my shoulders and ears were bleeding, and I was just every single day we'd just be doing lots and lots of 1-on-1s, 2-on-2s, 3-on-3s with Chrono, and he sort of got me ready, and he got me able to play. I played both sides at that World Cup, and so those two guys really stand out. Obviously there's heaps more. Like I could talk about Robbie Deans was massive for me, and his stuff was, I think the thing that stands out for me with Robbie is creating an environment where you just want to come and give everything for the team. He was so good at just creating that team first mentality and that real buy-in from players. So he was amazing. Shag, Smithy, they've all got different massive attributes that are they're incredible coaches, aren't they? So yeah, I've been very lucky to be coached by some of the absolute greats. And then I shouldn't forget Andrew Goodman, a guy that I played with who coached me in my last 2 years at Tasman. He's a fantastic coach, and I'm sure he's got a future hopefully with the All Blacks, I think, and certainly international rugby. And I rate him right up there as well. Just his attention to detail, his work ethic, and he's just a good bugger. And
everyone says that who comes on the show.
He's a good man, isn't he? And people want to play for him. So he's got a huge future, and I'll just enjoy watching his progression.
Yeah, absolutely. Debuts for Canterbury in 2005 and the Crusaders in 2006. Quickly saw you become a starter in both teams. You played in the 2006 Fog final. I remember watching that on the telly against the Hurricanes. So that must have been a bit of a talking point in the sheds after the game.
It was a bit of a strange one, turning up to the game, and you normally, doing a bit of the backs are doing kicks to each other and the ball disappears and you're like, where's he going to go, man? It was interesting. I think for us forwards, we sort of just had our heads buried in scrums and rucks and stuff, so it probably didn't make so much difference, but I wouldn't have wanted to be a fullback or a winger on that day. It would have been a bit difficult seeing the ball disappear.
I remember Grant Nisbet commentating that game, and he was, the whole game he was saying, well, I'd like to tell you this is happening, but I can't see anything.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It was unreal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who were you marking? John Afar?
No, it was against Wellington. It was against the Hurricanes, so I think it would have been Tialata. Yeah.
So he's the only player you saw?
Yeah, pretty much, mate. Yeah, until the aftermatch, and then we had a few with those Wellington boys. It was good fun.
Awesome.
You ended up playing a record 203 games for the Crusaders out of a possible 214 matches, so that's pretty amazing. And so where did that durability come from? Good recovery rate, obviously.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think my lack of explosiveness probably helped, to be honest. No, I don't know. I think pretty just a bit of good fortune. And like I say, maybe my shoulders and knee sockets and stuff are reasonably durable. And and the fact that I'm not very explosive didn't put me in too much harm's way. I don't know. I've obviously had lots of injuries, but a lot of the sort of wear and tear things I was able to continue to play through. So I think hard to know.
The Christchurch Stadium was named after you for your 200th. So how special was that night for you and the family?
Yeah, it was really cool. Sort of, that last season was, there was a couple of milestones, obviously, and, my kids being old enough to be able to share that, share those sorts of moments is pretty special.
Mm-hmm.
And, we still talk about it now from time to time, and the boys remember it, which is cool. And, it's a funny thing, coming to the end of your time at a team which has been a massive part of your life is, there's excitement for the next challenge, but also, you know that something that's been there for such a long time is coming to an end. So there's a bit of sadness, and you sort of miss the place, but again, you've sort of, I think for me, I'd had so much time there, it was a good time to move on. So
Not too many players have their name on a stadium, though, eh?
No.
So that must have been a real buzz.
It was unique. I think, we had such awesome relationships with all our back office and our back office team at Rugby Park down there in the Crusaders. And, I'm grateful for the way that they, really cared enough to organise. They didn't have to organise something like that, but they obviously cared enough to do something like that, which is pretty special. So, I think that's one of the great things about the Crusaders environment is just that connection that you do have with all the people that are involved in the team, not just the players. It's it's the management team, it's that support, the commercial team, and all the rest of it. It's a real tight group.
Yeah, sounds like a Doug McSweeney marketing idea, that one. A really good man behind the scenes there at the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Mate, having earned a regular position in those teams in the early seasons, at what point could you sense a growth in your own confidence and ability that you realised that becoming an All Black was attainable?
Oh, I don't know. I think for me, seeing some of my teammates and seeing some of the guys that I'd come through with go on and become All Blacks, that sort of gives you the belief that it could potentially happen. I mentioned Andy Ellis before, my good mate. I think I started played one game before him, so 1 week before him, and he made the All Blacks in his first season. Went on the India tour. So I think that sort of gave me some inspiration and belief. And then, I think as you sort of play and starting for the Crusaders, at the time, pretty much everyone that started for the Crusaders was an All Black. So that gave you confidence. And then, I think you just work out that if you can go right against the All Blacks that you are coming up against, then that gives you belief as well. And then you come up against other, the Super Rugby competition, you come up against the Springboks tight head or the Australian tight head. And if you go right there as well, that also helps as well. So I think over time, and then, for me, and then you sort of, I think it was about 2008, I was like, oh, geez, I wonder if I'm going to get selected this year. And I didn't. And that was, really disappointing, and I was gutted, but it made me, work even harder to try and get there. So, I think that.
That makes absolute sense. You've actually propped against everybody of any quality, and you can compete against them. So, and that was then rewarded in 2009 when you got your first Test cap against Italy.
Yep.
So they say that every level of rugby you play as a professional is quicker than the level before. So, what was your memory of that first Test, and did it fly by?
It just flew. Well, honestly, you blink and it's over. Because your childhood dream, you're excited for this moment. Here we go. And I just, one thing that I remember is just the fear of losing, or the fear of not playing to the best of my ability. That was the biggest thing. You're like, I just really want to go out there and do my job. And we're playing against Italy, a team that All Blacks I don't think I've ever lost to. Don't do that. So that those sorts of emotions come into it, and then you get into it and realize that it's okay, and then the game's over. For me, that's what it was like. And then I played 2 more tests that year. The second test was against Wales, which I felt I played all right. I sort of probably got over that first game sort of nerves, and then my third game was against Italy in San Siro, and had probably the worst game of my life. And I thought, geez, that's the end of my rugby career. I'll never get picked again. And I got dropped at the end of that year and didn't get picked for another year or so. Genuinely thought that's me. I've had my chance.
Yeah,
Wow.
I remember that test. Your prop seemed to be boring in quite significantly, and being allowed to get away with it, and it must have been hard work for you, mate.
Oh, mate, if I could have dug a hole or just got out of there, I would have. It was just one of those nights where, I tried everything that I'd learned over the years to stop him from being able to take to the ground, but I just couldn't. I just didn't have the ability to stop it. And just, I think if they called a penalty on their goal line, they still would have called a scrum, like they just everything, just almost knocked the ball on so they could have another scrum. And then, so then I think I got pulled at half time. And the only thing that sort of makes me feel it wasn't all just me was the replacement prop came on, and he then got yellow carded for collapsed scrums. And then the worst thing about it, I had to come back on and replace him. And I remember a period of about 20 minutes on our goal line, and we just had scrum after scrum after scrum after scrum, and there was penalties, and it was just an absolute nightmare. You can tell I probably haven't got over it.
What was the man's name?
Martin Castro Giovanni.
That's right. And so did you prop against him in your first test?
No, I think he wasn't there. He wasn't there. Another player that I played with, I played against a lot, was Yanni Duplessis.
Oh, yeah.
And Yanni actually, I think it was his first Springboks game, played against Castro Giovanni as well. And it's funny, years later, we sort of having a beer after a game. He's like, oh, I'm telling you what, this guy. And he's like, it almost ended his career. And his coach at the time said, you'll never play another test for the Springboks.
Oh, wow.
Because he had this same experience. So yeah, it's one of those things.
Well, you both got to go and catch up with them and have a beer with them.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And talk it out. It's probably sitting there quite quietly chuckling to himself.
Yeah. No.
All right. So then, 2011, you got named Super Rugby Player of the Year, and you then scored your first Test try against South Africa.
Yep.
But the 2011 Rugby World Cup squad is named, and you're not in it. So, what was the background to all of that?
Yeah, so it was back in the days when they only had one loose head in the playing 22. It was before they put in that 23rd player.
Right.
So they only picked one loose head for the one specialist loose head. And I think they picked a guy that could play both sides, and I didn't play both sides at international level. So yeah, and they went with Woody. So Woody was obviously been around for a long time and champion All Black, but he had been injured for the most of the Super Rugby. I think he did his Les Franks in his foot. I think that's what the injury was. So he missed the first 3 or 4 tests of that season, which gave me an opportunity to play. But then he came back just before the World Cup, and obviously went on and scored the winning try in the final, didn't he? So he went all right. But there was another tough moment. We had gone over to South Africa. They'd taken a few extra players, 36 players, to South Africa for that last test before the World Cup. Oh, sorry, the second to last test before the World Cup. And after the game, they named the team on the Sunday morning, and the team was then flying back to Australia to play against Australia. So the morning after the test, they named the team, called me into the thing and let me know that I wasn't in the team, and it was the hardest thing, and I was just absolutely beside myself, shattered. All the rest, even though I probably knew deep down that I wasn't going to make the team, I had a good idea that they were going to pick Woody, right? But it was still pretty heartbreaking for me. And there was another couple of 3 of us, I think, that were on that trip that didn't get selected. So then we had to fly back with the whole team all the way back to Australia, and then the 3 of us had to leave the team at the airport and jump on another plane back to New Zealand while they flew down to, I think, flew up to Brisbane for the last game. It was brutal, man.
Character building.
Yeah.
Mate, but you did become a Rugby World Cup champion in 2015.
Yeah.
So, and I know that you got injured in about the quarterfinals, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, you're a Rugby World Cup champion. In the modern era, is that the ultimate for an All Black to achieve that status, do you think?
Well, I think in any era, mate. That's the pinnacle, eh? And there's so many amazing All Blacks and international players that never actually get to go to a World Cup because of injury or just timing or whatnot. But I'd been an All Black for on and off for sort of 5 or 6 years by the time that 2015 World Cup came around. So I really wanted to be there, and I know it just motivated me pretty hard to train to make sure that it was in that team. And it was amazing to be in a World Cup. It's just another level of excitement, the best of the best of the year, and they're at the pinnacle as well. They've World Cup cycle, you prepare for it as players, coaches, every team's at their absolute best. It was awesome to be part of. Obviously disappointing to get injured in the quarter, but still amazing to be a part of it.
It's good stuff. All right. So after the All Blacks and Crusaders, mate, you decided to play a couple of seasons for the Mako.
Yeah.
2018 and 2019, and that included a epic 2019 premiership victory over Wellington win. What was your motivation towards coming to play for Tasman?
Yeah, I think there was. As soon as Tasman came into the Mitre 10 Cup, I always thought, it'd be awesome to go home and play for them. It's where I grew up. I played all my junior rugby here. It would be awesome to do that. But obviously with a young family and all the rest of it, you want to, try and keep as stable as possible. So it wasn't really possible. But then when I retired from All Blacks rugby, we obviously started looking into opportunities for life after footy and started looking at business opportunities, and the opportunity to come back to Nelson was available through Sterling Sports. So that lined up, and then obviously knew Leon really well from my time at the Crusaders, and he was keen for me to come and play, and so stars sort of just aligned really, and I'm really grateful because it was a great couple of years. I really enjoyed it. Ended up with the best finish you could possibly ask for. It was like a bit of a fairy tale. I didn't get to play. I got dropped for my last 2 games in my Crusaders career. I didn't really finish my All Blacks career how I would have liked it. But to finish with a maiden title for Tassie, at home, family all there, was pretty
must have
awesome.
been pretty cool.
Yeah.
I was actually just about to ask you about that.
Jumped the gun. It was wicked. I think there was a sunset that night. It was.
It was a fabulous day, and but there was a game in there. Was it the semi-final when you pinched a turnover right at the end? I remember the elation on everyone's face. Was that the semi? Or?
I think it was the final.
It was the final, was it? To pinch the ball at the end.
I think it came on, and I think the players gave me we had an award for the reserve of the day or whatever. But I remember at the time I probably, I was a bit older, had a few niggles, and I struggled to get through training pain free and all the rest of it. So I wasn't in great shape, was not that fit. And I remember I was blowing hard at the end of that game, and I was just like, one last game, and managed to make a couple of turnovers that helped. But
yes, that's right.
Not a bad flanker after all.
Yeah, that's right. Finally proving himself at number 7. Yeah. So alongside your wife Jenna, you're now the owner of Sterling Sports Nelson and Richmond. So tell us about that transition from rugby to now running a business.
Thanks for the plug, mate.
Yeah.
No, look, it's there's a lot of crossover, to be honest, being part of a team, and at the end of the day, with our team and our staff are the most important part. So I think that crossover has been really good. Certainly, it's been a huge learning curve. Understanding stock levels and PAYE and all that stuff. We don't learn that on the rugby field there. So I didn't have any real education outside of school. So it's been a huge learning curve. But I think that ability to I suppose in rugby, you're constantly learning and constantly evolving. The game changes, and you've got to try and upskill. And I think that sort of mindset sort of helped me. And still learning every day now.
So, what's the most enjoyable part of the business for you?
There's a lot. I think probably just when you get that real growth from one of your team members that that really steps up and takes on new challenges and responsibilities. That's awesome. I think that's something that I really get a lot of joy out of. Seeing their growth is really cool. So yeah.
Good stuff. All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming in, Wyatt. And it's great that you've ended your career back in the region that where it all started, and now running a business and bringing up a family. So it's great to have you here. And just fantastic to hear the insight into your career. And it's been a big career. And, I guess it's these days it's a lot of reflection, whereas probably when you're in amongst it was a lot of challenges. Would that be?
Totally. I think it's just that constant sort of up and down. I think that's professional sport. I think probably the one thing that a lot of sportsmen have to be able to have is that resilience and being able to bounce back from disappointments. Because there's injuries, there's selection, there's all sorts of stuff in life, and and in business as well. Same sort of thing. We've had couple of tough years with lockdowns and now we've got a cost of living stuff going on. There's always things that are happening, but I think your ability to stay resilient and bounce back is really important. So any young listeners, it's not always sunshine and rainbows. There's always stuff that goes wrong. Just keep working hard, grafting, and if you've got that dream, you can achieve it.
Good stuff. Thanks very much for coming in. All right, lads. So more rugby, Les. It doesn't end.
No. Looking forward to Sunday very much. The ladies playing at 11:35, and then the men playing at 2 p.m.
Yeah.
So a good chance to get to Trafalgar Park in the sun and give these boys a boost and get them a victory.
Plus
and the ladies, of course.
Yeah, and we've got an All Black game as well to look forward to. So.
Yeah. Go to bed early Friday or stay up late. Either way, what are you going to do? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right.
Honestly, Yeah, I won't write it off. But we'll be up for it regardless.
All right, good stuff. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you to our listeners, and we welcome your comments, and we look forward to speaking to you again next week.
The Mako Rugby Roundup. What's on, where, and when? It's the Talk of Nelson. Talk Nelson Radio.